Hi everyone, I'm Spider-Man 1991, and this is my video series where I talk about the comic books I read this week. These comics came out January 29th, 2014, although there is one that I forgot to get last week, but I picked up today. And I'm gonna get into my reviews after I talk. First, a little tidbit of news. I didn't post a video review last week because I wasn't feeling well enough. And what I did was I instead did a written review, which I posted on a blog I started about 3 years ago, which I thought I was going to use a lot more often, but I really didn't. Good news is I put a link to the entry down below in the description, so click on that when you get the chance. Also, today DC and Warner Brothers announced that they did cast a Lex Luthor and an Alfred for the Man of Steel sequel. And to play Lex Luthor, they chose Jesse Eisenberg. And for Alfred, they cast Jeremy Irons. I'm going to do another video that will describe my reaction to that right after I'm done with this one. Now, enough jibber jabber, let's get into some comics. Starting off with a comic from Dark Horse. It is Serenity, Leaves on the Wind, #1. Alright, first of all, I just want to say that I decided to get the variant cover instead of the usual one because the usual cover has Malcolm Reynolds and Inora sort of embracing each other in the cockpit of Serenity. And however, I decided to get the variant because, well, it has all of the members of the crew on it, and also we get a nice cool shot of the ship here, which I think is great. So, you know, it just looked better to me, and I saw it and I thought, why not? So, alright, pretty much this series takes place after the events of Serenity, the movie. The Alliance everyone knows about what happened on Miranda and how the Alliance inadvertently created the Reavers. And and if I had to get a right estimate about how long it's been about 9 months. And I don't really want to give too much away about this issue because I think a lot of fans of Firefly and Serenity owe it to themselves to get this series because, like a lot of TV shows like Buffy, Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, these characters have found new life through various comic book publishings, and now Serenity is about to join them with this series. Well, when I say, and of course Serenity has had some other comics in the past that bridge the gap between the Firefly TV series and Serenity the movie. This series will now continue the story that concluded, sort of started at the end of Serenity the movie, and pretty much a lot. And so, like I said, the Alliance. Everyone knows about what happened on Miranda, which means the Alliance is now searching even harder for Serenity, and also a lot of stuff is developed. Also, there are a lot of changes with the characters, which I really do not want to give away because this issue was a great issue. I felt, I really do love Firefly and the Serenity franchise, so I thought this series was a great first issue. It's a whole new adventure for the crew, and I think fans of Firefly and Serenity definitely owe it to themselves to pick up the first issue. So I would say this book is definitely a buy it. Right, next up from Image Comics, Invincible #108. Pretty much Robot and Invincible travel to the alternate dimension where Invincible's evil tyrannical counterpart took Angstrom Levy, and Invincible just wants to go there to make sure so he can end Angstrom Levy once and for all. When he gets there, he sees that his counterpart has detained Angstrom Levy and is torturing him so he can kind of know his secrets of dimensional travel and stuff. But he hasn't killed him, and that's something Mark wants to do. He wants to end it for good. However, though, Robot has an ulterior motive, and he pretty much activates a sound wave, sort of a sonic weapon that is similar to the one that Cecil had in Invincible's head back when he worked for him. And pretty much Robot activates the device to temporarily incapacitate mainstream Invincible. Then he kills his counterpart by exploding his head from the inside. Then he then he decapitates Angstrom Levy and leaves Invincible stranded in this dimension because apparently Robot, as he put it, has plans for Earth. And unfortunately, though, he wasn't sure how big of a factor Invincible would be how big of a variable Invincible would be towards these plans. So he figures it's just easier to strand him on this dimension, and so that's where the book ends, with Invincible stranded in another dimension. Okay, well, I gotta admit, this book, very nice. This was a great issue. It pretty much revealed to us a whole other side of the character Robot, because the thing is, Robot and Monster Girl spent a number of years in another dimension where they were essentially rulers of the Flaxian people, and right after, and of course when they got back, though eventually their rule ended and Robot was, taken down from power, and when they got back, though, they weren't exactly the same. However, it did look like Robot was the same, but now we see that's not the case. He's pretty much, in a way, if I describe Robot, he's had a taste of power, and now he had a taste of power, he lost it, now he wants it back. And so that's what I think he's planning on doing on Earth. And now I think now Invincible has to figure out a way to get back to his home dimension and stop him. So, so all that stuff. Invincible is a pretty great series. I mean, it is a superhero comic, but it's by Image, so it's not really a traditional superhero comic, and I think that's great. I think if you want to read a superhero book that doesn't have all of the cliches of a superhero story, then Invincible is definitely for you. And hey, there's a lot of gore, and if gory action is your thing, they got stuff in that too. So yeah, Invincible is definitely a buy. All right, now it's time for DC with Aquaman, number 27. Basically, Aquaman continues his fight with the giant crab monster known as the Kraken. I hope I'm saying that right. And pretty much, Aquaman fights it, kills it by stabbing his trident in its brain. However, though, after Aquaman defeats it and he's stuck talking to Mera, the Atlantean guards who came with Mera, and then some of the survivors, while he wasn't looking, an agent of this organization called Triton stole the Kraken's brain. Well, I don't think the whole brain, just like part of it. And pretty much when Aquaman went back to get his Triton, and then suddenly, when he still tried to sense anything from the Kraken, he discovers that its brain is somehow on the move, and so so apparently the creature's brain is still alive. And on the last page, we see that the diver, the agent that took the piece of the brain, is suddenly getting attacked by sharks. So yeah, the brain. So that was a pretty interesting last page. But the issue itself, it's just Aquaman fighting a monster. However, just fighting a monster. I would say that this series was great, showing that Aquaman can be built on a lot of action. He can take down a giant monster. I think that's interesting. However, I don't really feel this book is developing a lot towards plot-wise, because I thought we were really going to deal more with the 7 Cities of Atlantis, but now it feels like we're going to be dealing with this whole mysterious beast that came out of the ocean. So I would say Aquaman number 27 is really borrowed from a friend. Alright, next up, The Flash, number 27. Basically, after a fight with supervillains, during a fight with supervillains Chroma and Tar Pit, Flash discovers an underground burial ground, an underground burial plot that was used by a serial killer. And when the Central City forensics team arrives and they start looking at the bodies, Captain Fry, who you may remember as the guy who was Barry's legal guardian after his mom was murdered and dad was arrested, shows up and tells him that this is probably these people were probably victims of the Broom Hill Butcher, and Barry recognizes Broom Hill as the place he grew up in, and then Barry volunteers to kind of take the lead on this case, but Fry says that the real killers are incarcerated, and when it comes to cataloging the victims and everything, he wants someone else to take it, not Barry, which strikes Barry as odd. And eventually, though, Barry goes behind the captain's back. He's eventually able to link the Broom Hill Butcher's case and victims to his mother's murder. Like, he's able to find a link between it. And he goes and tells his father, but his father dismisses it. Then he goes and tries to then he goes and talks to the guy who is supposedly the Broomhill Butcher in prison, but apparently that's not the case. He's apparently covering for someone, and when Barry finally gets a name from the guy, he goes and talks to Captain Fry about it, but Fry says that Barry should just leave this alone and just accept it, but Barry asks why won't he do this, and apparently we learned through this conversation that apparently Fry and his mother had history. Interesting. And at that point, Barry's just really frustrated and just decides to go off on his own with this case. And so, as the Flash, he discovers that apparently Archibald Dillon is dead. And so he decides, and when he gets ready to exhume the body to inspect it, but right as he's about to do so, he gets attacked by a green skeleton ghost. Okay, first of all, let me just say that this issue was very nice. Okay, it was very good. I liked how we're getting back to Barry's mom, the murder of Barry's mom. I think that's important. That's pretty much something that is essential to Barry Allen's mythology ever since he came back from the dead, pre-New 52. And originally it was Professor Zoom. Now it's now in the New 52, it's completely different. His mom was still murdered. His dad was blamed, but we still don't know. But his mother's killer is still out there. So I think now we might seriously get some answers to it, which will be very interesting to see as this comes along. I would say if you started reading The Flash in the New 52, but you were put off on it, you should really get this issue because it's great. This is the first time in a while I've been excited for The Flash. I think this is great. I highly recommend it. Flash, definitely a buy. Alright, now it's time for Marvel. Starting with the comic that came out last week that I forgot to get. Hawkeye, number 16. When I say I forgot to get it, I mean I just recently made the decision to get Hawkeye monthly, and I forgot to tell my comic shop to add it to my folder. But I have it now, so. Hawkeye, number 16. And yeah, I know issue 15 hasn't come out yet. We're getting 16 out first, but good news, this issue isn't about Clint Barton, it's about Kate Bishop. Pretty much this entire issue, it continues Kate Bishop's adventures in Los Angeles as she pretty much tries to do her career as a private detective, but the adventure really gets rocky for her as her case in this issue is trying to find out who leaked a song by this fallen pop star from the 60s. But I'd say this issue is very great. It's sort of fun. I mean, originally Kate did have. I mean, thing is though, if you have been reading Hawkeye, you should know that when Kate moved out to LA, apparently she lost all access to her father's money, so she's essentially broke, and she's kind of taken on a lot of odd, not really a lot of odd jobs right now, but it's been a very LA for her has been very rocky. Yeah, that's how I describe it. It has pretty much had some ups and downs. But overall, the middle of this gets pretty rocky for Kate, but in the end, there's a happy ending, and there is an illusion about what Madame Mask. And again, we're kind of getting a whole illusion that Kate may meet up again with Madame Mask. So yeah, Hawkeye, still one of the best series out there. I also think it's great that this series, it was originally going to be about Clint Barton, but now we're getting issues that focus on Clint, then we get issues that focus on Kate. I think that's great. The only thing though is that I really hope those two get back together soon at some point, and when I say get back together, I mean back together as partners. Because I think that was really another interesting thing about the book, but overall, this series is still awesome. Matt Fraction's doing a killer job on this. Hawkeye is definitely a buy. Alright, next up, Uncanny Avengers number 16, or as I can describe it in 2 words, Thor Unchained. This issue is pretty much full action, like just nothing but action. It's Thor, he's finally had it with the Apocalypse twins. He decides to go after them head on. He frees Captain America. Captain America goes and deals with one of the Apocalypse twins, the woman Emin, while Thor pretty much deals with Uriel. And he goes to town on Thor just goes to town on Uriel. Like, he's just like there's no real clever quips or anything. Uriel's taunting him, saying that he stopped Kang, he's killed all of his friends, and Thor's like, I don't care. Boom, hammer time. And Thor actually, and even though it's a huge rough battle, Thor still manages to come out on top and kills Uriel. And of course, after he does that, though, he like practically loses an arm in the process. And after Thor defeats Uriel, he heads off to go collect his axe, Yabberhorn, which I still, again, hope I'm saying right. But unfortunately, though, when he's out in space and he spots it, Emin is able to grab it first. All while he still has to deal with the Celestial Executioner who's getting ready to destroy Earth. Okay, yeah, again, like I said, this issue is just full of action. It's just based, and the whole focus of this is Thor versus Uriel, and it is a good fight. It is a real good fight, lots of action. Thor's not holding back. He manages to take out one of the Apocalypse twins. This is pretty much all the previous issues of Uncanny Avengers I have been pretty hit or miss for me, but man, this is good. I mean, if you love Thor when he's swinging his hammer, kicking some ass, this is an issue you definitely need to pick up. I would say Uncanny Avengers number 16 is definitely a buy. Alright, next up, Guardians of the Galaxy number 11, Point Now. After Gamora and Angela managed to save Peter Quill from a Skrull bounty hunter, oh yeah, Peter was drugged. They get back to the ship where Rocket Raccoon informs them that he's picked up communications from the Badoon about information about the Shi'ar who are planning to go to Earth to abduct Jean Grey. And of course the Guardians decide to head to Earth to go help out the X-Men, but when they arrive, they're too late. The Shi'ar already have Jean. And it's pretty much the same scene we saw at the end of All New X-Men number 22. Alright, I'd say this issue was good if you haven't been reading Guardians of the Galaxy. I haven't. I picked up the first story arc. I thought it was good. I was thinking about getting the rest of the series in trade, but then the trial of Jean Grey happened, and now I'm gonna get the Guardians of the Galaxy issues that tie into this event, since I'm already reading All New X-Men. Okay, alright, Guardians of the Galaxy number 11 is pretty much just like All New X-Men number 22, but in this case, it's the Guardians' perspective. Now, I wouldn't say that getting both issues, All New X-Men 22 and Guardians 11 is essential, because I really think you just need one of them. And I think if you're just reading, if you've been keeping up with only one of the teams, then you should get the other one. For example, I've been reading All New X-Men since issue 1, therefore I think all I needed was Guardians of the Galaxy to get me into this story. If you've been reading Guardians of the Galaxy since the beginning, but you haven't been reading All New X-Men, then start with All New X-Men number 22. And I'd say, probably for the rest of the story arc, you are going to need to get both series. But if you've only, but I think really between the two, between the two first parts of this, Guardians 11 and All New X-Men number 22, I'd say you only need to get one of them. So really, this issue is a buy it if you haven't been reading Guardians of the Galaxy. If you haven't been reading All New X-Men, then I'd say get that one. But if you haven't been reading both teams, well, get both if you can afford it. Otherwise, I'd say only pick one. And if I had to choose between the two, I would probably go with Guardians. All right, moving along. Okay, now for my final comic, Superior Spider-Man number 26. This is the prelude to Goblin War. Right now, this is your starting point if you want to start reading Superior Spider-Man, because guess what? 5 issues later, it's going to be gone. Alright, but pretty much in this prelude issue, we have Goblin battle. We have the Green Goblin versus the Hobgoblin for control, for who's going to be the real Goblin King. And of course, originally it was the two of them having their teams fight it out, but then they said, oh, hey, how about winner take all? So the two of them battle, and of course, Green Goblin wins. And also we get more evidence that the Green Goblin is Norman Osborn, because during the fight, the Goblin's armor kind of rips off, and we do see like this big circle scar on the Goblin's chest, which is where the glider impounded Norman Osborn when he died during the death of Gwen Stacy's story, which gives us some more evidence that the Green Goblin is Norman. However, I'm still not sure. Okay, I'm sorry. Even though we have the scar and everything, I'm just not sure. I mean, I think I need to see the Goblin unmasked in order to confirm it. That's just me. And another theory I had when I was reading the book is that maybe because the Goblin, something happened with the Goblin formula inside Norman, and it caused his face to actually mutate into an actual Goblin face. That could be a theory. That's just a theory I have, and pretty much the Green Goblin wins. He beats the Hobgoblin. However, though, remember what happened the last time we thought Roger Kingsley died. Just think about that. and yeah, so pretty much now the Goblin has control over Roger Kingsley's franchises and gets them to join him. So now he's got his full army and he's ready to go to war. Meanwhile, what's been going on with the Superior Spider-Man? Well, he just quit the Avengers. Yeah, pretty much the Avengers again show up, talk to Spider-Man, saying, Iron Man says, guess what? I was able to recover some footage. I had another camera that you didn't erase. Also, I could probably restore the file since you know how hard it is to completely erase something. And at which point Spider-Man, who's really Otto Octavius, is finally done with all of this. He just says, you know what, if you're going to keep questioning me, I'm out. And he just basically leaves Avengers Tower, tells them he quits, and he leaves. So yeah, perfect time for you. So he quits the Avengers just when he's going to have to deal with an all-out war with the Green Goblin. Smooth, Spidey. Yeah. And also, what about Peter Parker? Well, we get more illusions about the return of Peter Parker in this issue too, as Peter's sort of in the mindscape. Ghost Peter, or well, Peter Parker, he's still in the mindscape of the shared consciousness between him and Otto Octavius. And there's still, unfortunately though, there are barely any few memories of Peter Parker left because, again, Otto erased them all, and the only ones he has are the ones he had access to before the wipe, which were pretty much when Peter flashed his entire life before his eyes as he died. And Peter's going through a couple of memories, and he realizes that, you know, these may not be all of my memories, but they are the memories that define me. And, you know, because of that, you've distilled me to my core, Otto, and because of that, I'm ready to take you down. So yeah, Peter Parker's all pumped up. He's ready to go. And also, it does give us an idea as to what we could be dealing with when Peter comes back, because he said he doesn't have all his memories, only the highlights of his life. And I think that's something that could happen to Peter when he comes back. He probably couldn't fully remember anything that happened to him within the last any recent stuff or something like that. So he might be fogging on a few details. He could be like Tony Stark was right before Siege began, after Tony put himself in a coma and he had a backup of his mind restored, but that backup only went so far, and Tony really couldn't remember anything that happened leading up to Civil War. So the same thing could happen to Peter in all this. He could come back and he could remember all the important people, all the important events of his life, but some of the recent stuff could be foggy to him, and you know, that could be something that we deal with when Amazing Spider-Man starts again. Okay, like I said, Superior Spider-Man number 26. This is your jumping on. This is pretty much the prelude to Goblin War. This is the last jumping on point for Superior Spider-Man, because like I said, after Goblin War, the series will end. Amazing Spider-Man will come back. So yeah, if you haven't had the chance to read Superior Spider-Man, you've heard people say how awesome it is, this is your last chance. This is pretty much a good point to jump on. Again, Goblin War is officially beginning. I am pumped for this. Can't wait to see how they are going to bring Peter Parker back. Can't wait to see if the Green Goblin really is Norman, because again, they are alluding to it, but I'm not entirely buying it. I think it is possible that, you know, Dan Slott can tease us along like it's probably like it's Norman. Psych, it's not Norman. And there is evidence, but again, I'm not going to believe it until I actually see Osborn. So yeah, okay, that's it. But yeah, overall, Superior Spider-Man number 26, definitely a buy. Alright, yeah, that's all for me. I'm going to make a video after this showing my reaction to the Man of Steel casting of Jesse Eisenberg. But yeah, again, sorry I didn't have a review last week. I did post a blog link to it in the description, so check that out when you get the chance. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Long-time subscribers, thank you for sticking with me. New subscribers, thank you for just subscribing. You're in for a real treat. I'm Spider-Man 1991. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later.